Hey, what's going on, Guardians? My name is the Black Link, coming back at you on a Thursday evening for Thursday, March 4th, 2021. And you know what that means. It's time for this week's issue of the Bungie Weekly blog, This Week at Bungie. And after the massive state of the game we had last week, which gave us all kinds of incredible news about things that are going to be coming to Destiny 2 starting next season, well, this week's TWAB is a little bit lighter on information, but there's still some really interesting stuff in there. We've got a new celebratory emblem coming to the game. We get a sneak peek at some, you'll never guess this, but Festival of the Lost Armor for way later this year. And this week we even got to get a deep dive into the Deep Stone Crypt raid. We got to see how it was built, some of the inspirations for some of the sections in there, and all of that was covered on a live stream that Bungie had earlier this week that came alongside an article that they also dropped. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive on into the information in this week's TWAB. First things first, Bungie addresses something that has had the entire community up and running content. If you have been paying attention at all, you'll likely know that there's been a bit of a matchmaking glitch going on right now that has allowed multiple fire teams to kind of gang up and run specific content. You can go and run 12-man raids and whatnot, and it has created some absolutely glorious memeing in the world of D2. This hasn't escaped Bungie's notice, and they had a rather interesting response that I'll go through here. Here's what they had to say. The big buzz around the community this week has been players finding out a way to cram 4 fire teams in activities meant for 1. We've been watching the 12-player raid hype and are glad you're enjoying yourselves. We aren't rushing out a fix for this, and it's totally fine if you want to try it out and have some fun. Just keep in mind that we didn't create these activities expecting a clown car of Guardians to roll up, so you may experience some weirdness. We are planning on fixing this before Grandmaster Nightfalls begin on March 16th, but you are free to party up until the fix goes live. And I wanted to bring that up really quickly there for people who had questions about whether or not this is going to be a thing when Grandmasters drop. No, they are looking to have that fixed, but ultimately they're just kind of enjoying the fun as much as we are when it comes to stacking up multiple fire teams and taking on something like the Deep Stone Crypt. Hopefully this is indicative of, or at least it's going to lead in the future to Bungie making larger scale activities for more players. I can remember Combined Arms back in D1 was a lot of fun in the Crucible, but I would have loved to have gotten a legit 12-person game mode in PvE, and I hope that that's a direction that Bungie is looking towards going in. But anyways, now that we've moved on from that, International Women's Day is fast approaching. In a few short days on March 8th, we will join the world in celebrating International Women's Day, both a time for the global community to celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women, as well as a call to action to accelerate women's equality around the world. And Bungie says that it's in the spirit of this action that we are excited to announce the newest addition to our Diversity and Inclusion Pin series, available for pre-order on the Bungie store now. As with previous pins, you'll also receive a brand new emblem to show off to your friends in orbit. Emblem codes for pre-ordering will be sent out sometime later this month, and then we get to see the new emblem that will come alongside pre-orders of the International Women's Day pin. So if you want to get your hands on this emblem, head over to the Bungie store and pre-order the International Women's Day pin. It's good looks for a good cause. After that, we get a bit of information about some bug fixes coming to the game. One of the most frustrating issues that seems to have been pushed in with Beyond Light has been the issue of teleporting enemies. You've no doubt noticed that, especially when you're playing activities like Battlegrounds, a lot of the enemies just don't sit still or move the way they're supposed to. Sometimes they just kind of teleport all over the place, and it can be a little bit frustrating when you're trying to track them with a shot from a breech-loaded grenade launcher. Well, we actually learn a bit about why that's been happening with increased frequency since Beyond Light. It turns out it's a networking issue, or rather an issue with Bungie's networking logic interfering with the way the AI moves. In a section appropriately titled Nothing Personal Kid, they go into more details about how exactly adding more enemies in an activity like Battlegrounds has kind of clogged up their network logic, and so it's kind of making enemies act a little bit screwy. If you want some more details there, We of course have a link to the TWAB in the description box below, but essentially, there's too much going on in terms of network logic right now, especially when you get Cabal who have flamethrowers, which really kind of tax out the AI. And when that gets clogged up, enemies just sort of start acting in unpredictable ways. The TWAB states that Bungie is working on improvements for how they handle network traffic and think it will reduce the amount of teleporting. Of course, they'll never be able to completely eliminate it because player-facing teleporting can be caused by internet hiccups, but they hope to significantly reduce the frequency. They're also looking at some targeted content fixes where enemies respond into a bad place and teleport because of issues with their pathing. And hopefully we'll see some of those quality of life fixes coming soon. It always fascinates me to see behind the scenes on how exactly some of the crazy bugs we encounter really come together, because usually it's some kind of crazy logical anomaly that causes it. But speaking of going behind scene with things, earlier this week we got a deep dive of the Deep Stone Crypt raid. Bungie went live, they had a bit of a live stream talking a bit about the inspirations behind the raid. They dropped an article going further into detail about how they came up with some of the encounters, some of the themes behind it, the jumping section, the music that was there. It was really, really interesting stuff. If you happen to miss that video, I'll have a link to it down in the description box below, as well as a link to the article that they published. But just to bring up one of my favorite bits of lore behind that is the beginning of the raid. When you're kind of going through the wasteland there, the inspiration for that actually came from my favorite game of all time, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, with the haunted wasteland before you reach the Spirit Temple. This was really an enlightening piece of information because now I can totally see the inspiration and references there of going off the beaten track and kind of finding yourself back at the start. And it's that kind of background behind the scenes information that I just love to learn about. Make sure you go and check out that live stream. It's definitely worth your time. But enough looking back. Let's look far into the future with some Festival of the Lost information that I certainly wasn't expecting. In a section titled Don't Boo, Vote, Bungie has shared previews of 2 concept armor sets that they have for Eververse, which can either be purchased for silver or earned via Bright Dust, and they're running off of a theme: movie monsters versus dinosaurs. These 2 warring themes are going to be battling for control of this year's Festival of the Lost. And since the universe isn't big enough to host both of these themes, you, the players, get to vote on which one Bungie's gonna go for. In order to vote for your favorite theme, just visit this link that we'll have down in the description box below. It'll ask you a few questions before showing you the concept art for classic giant monsters versus dinosaurs, which almost more so look like pieces of the Megazord to me than anything else. And then once you've gotten through the first few preliminary questions, it'll ask you which one you prefer: classic giant monsters or dinosaurs. And your vote may just decide which armor set we get to see later this year. The deadline for voting is March 8th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and they will announce a winner in a future TWAB. So get out there and vote. It's your right and duty as Guardians. But alright, the last thing we have to talk about today is some Prime Gaming rewards, which are seeing a new revision. Last week, Bungie added new rewards that are available through Prime Gaming, which is a service where you can link your Twitch Prime account to your Bungie account and get some free exotic Eververse rewards from Amanda Holiday. Once you've signed up and linked your account, you can claim your rewards by visiting Amanda Holiday in the hangar portion of the tower. And this month, they're offering an Imperial Ghost projection that is tied into the theme of the Season of the Chosen. Here are the full rewards for this month: the Imperial Projection Legendary Ghost Projection, the 6-Shooter Exotic Emote, the Warrior Steed Exotic Sparrow, and the Oviraptor Exotic Ship. So if you've got an Amazon and Twitch Prime account but haven't yet linked it to Bungie, you can follow the link posted in the TWAB to start getting your free rewards. These rewards generally swap out on a month-by-month basis, so make sure you're staying tuned and go pick your stuff up from Holiday. Alright Guardians, that's pretty much it for the biggest bits of news contained in this week's issue of the Bungie Weekly blog, This Week at Bungie. On a side note, Trials of Osiris is still going to be disabled this weekend. Bungie hasn't quite figured out how to handle that whole Haka method thing yet, but they will provide more information when it becomes available. And with that, that's all the news fit to print, and those are my thoughts. Be sure to leave me yours down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. I'm out for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.